the great general came, there's been a change. At least if nothing, people are afraid now to ask you to give them money or dollars. Where would they keep them? Where would they keep them? Whistleblowing is all over the place. Some people call it even, they say that we should not call it whistle, that is trumpet. Because that the effect is like a trumpet, a bugle that is being blown. So we have tackled corruption massively, made some gains in terms of resources of the country that have been pillaged, that have been, our common patrimony that have been taken away illegally. Some of them stashed abroad are also being recovered. But the economy, for some strange reasons, we were not too lucky. Because as soon as we came, oil price nosedived. As soon as we came, the little turbulence we had in Niger Delta blossomed into militant activities with vandalization of oil pipelines and oil installations and oil infrastructure. Oil companies tried to close shop. They couldn't export at one point when the export terminal was affected. And drilling on oil stopped, so to say, in many of the companies at that time. And oil is the backbone of Nigerian economy. It's the mainstay of Nigerian economy. As a matter of fact, 95% of our earnings is from oil proceeds. Some people say it's 80%. I don't agree it's 80%. It's about 90%. So it affected what you can now call retrogradely, in a retrogression, the ability of the Nigerian economy to create employment as promised by the APC manifesto. It affected our ability to grow the economy. It affected inflation rates. It affected all the economic indices negatively. Today, as we speak, inflation rose, unemployment rose from about 9% to about 15%, 16%, and still growing. But we decided as a government that the best thing to do is that we shall fight unemployment by making sure that in as much as we are not creating new jobs that will take care of the army of youths that come out from our tertiary institutions and even the post-secondary and secondary institutions. That what we'll do is to first see that we keep the jobs we have. So the oil companies were the hardest hit by the vandalization I mentioned earlier. So they decided that they have to lay off workers in the oil companies. They decided to lay off workers. The banks followed suit and said that most of their investment in oil and gas have been affected, so that the loans they gave out there have, in the majority, turned out to be bad loans now. And so banks joined suit and started laying off workers. So as Labor and Employment Minister, the onus was on me to act fast. So I did the first thing, which is call an oil conference with the labor unions. And we agreed to work together. And we agreed that we have to save jobs. And we agreed that people in the high up, the pecs, for the people up, can be cut. We go and cut off. Some executive directors had about 6 cars. Some go on company-sponsored holidays 4 times in a year, every quarter. Some have earnings that are very big, gargantuan. So we reached that agreement. And we said, keep the people who are in the lower level and the middle level. Keep them. And the ILO conventions permits collective bargaining and social dialogue. We said to them, dialogue with the workers. Workers Don't ask for unnecessary allowances when for travel to hazardous or swamp areas or whatever they call it in oil and gas engineering. Don't also ask for allowances that are frivolous. Don't even ask for promotions that are not necessary now. And they agreed. So we were then able to consolidate that area and make sure that the very few jobs that were going to be lost there, that they subject them to social dialogue and collective bargaining. Right. We went the same way into the banking industry. They didn't want to listen. And I told them that I have discussed at the highest level. If you continue laying people off without going back to the labor laws, which talks in section 20, how redundancy can be achieved. There's a redundancy clause there. He didn't say you must not remove. You can remove, but you apply the law. What does the law say? The law says you must call the workers either through their union or through an association or even individually and tell them that the jobs are not enough for the number of workers that are there. That's what redundancy means. And then you apply the principle of agreeing, showing them why it is necessary. This will entail showing them the books of the bank and the companies, and from there you will not agree on how many people will go and the departments that will be greatly affected. And then there is also the principle of last come, first to go. You apply it. So but the banks and the companies find it difficult to do that because they may not like somebody's face and it's an opportunity for him to go. Maybe he's a union leader. And we say, no, you cannot. The law is there, and the law is an us. And the Nigerian constitution permits unionization. And wherever there are unions, you must discuss with the unions and have this agreement. That is what we call CBA, collective bargaining agreement. Right. So we're able now to get some jobs saved in the banks. But it's not all bad picture or cry, cry, cry. The government says, we know we don't have the resources anymore. We know we did not save for the rainy day. The previous government didn't save. They didn't save even when oil was selling at 110 a barrel. So let us do what we can with the little we have. And so something must give. What did we do? We then decided that the few agencies of government that can recruit people for white-collar jobs should be given the permission to do so. The Nigerian police, 10,000 people were approved for them to reinforce the force. Nigerian Army, Air Force, Navy, Immigration. And even as we speak, the Federal Public Service, Civil Service Commission is also recruiting. And some agencies of government have been doing their replacements and minor recruitments as need be. So we've not actually thrown up our hands up and said, oh, we are lost. This is not to talk about the social intervention aspect, where we have an Empower program, and we promise that we shall employ 500,000 youths for jobs. As we speak today, we have only been able to do about 250 because the economy has not permitted.
Okay, so we both agreed that the situation is still there in terms of employment figures, the high rate of unemployment, and yet we're still churning out, hordes of young men and women.
That's right.
Who really need something to get into. Now, one of the proposals people have put across, and which the government also talked about, was turning to agriculture in order to help resuscitate the economy.
Yes.
And it's been agreed that agriculture is a provider of massive jobs. Now, how have you been able to deploy that towards addressing the situation?
Thank you very much, sir. This is a very good question. The government decided that for us to also fight unemployment, that we should diversify the economy, face agriculture and mining. These two areas will give us double-barrel results. First, employment, and then the much needed foreign exchange. We will conserve foreign exchange. For example, we stopped importation of rice. We didn't stop it by a fiat, but the duties were raised on rice. And the local producers of rice now discover that they can mill their rice and sell at maybe 10,000 naira a bag. Hitherto, nobody was talking to them. The rice were all Thailand rice that have been in the stores for maybe 10, 12 years, and they have even expired. No more nutrients in them than imported here for people to consume. So government faced agriculture, and our agriculture minister, Chief Audogbe, had done a lot of advocacy and had canvassed the whole place. The Central Bank of Nigeria has supported agriculture with their anchor program as part of their corporate social responsibility. And a lot of farmers are happy. They now targeted rice-producing areas of Kebbi, Anambra, Anyamelmeria, Ebonyi, Abakaliki, Nasarawa here, Katsina. There is no area in this country where you have water or river that cannot produce rice. Because what rice needs is swampy area. There's upland rice, so you can do double cropping. So government faced that. And again, mining. There were a lot of places where we can get our minerals. No Nigerian state is bereft of mineral. Every state in Nigeria has one mineral or the other to mine. This is why some of us advocate that the issue of mining should be liberalized and removed from the exclusive federal legislative list, so that state governments can go into mining. But what we're now doing, because of the situation, is that we are trying, the Ministry of Mines and Mines have gone to meet those miners that are called illegal miners and are formalizing them. And in formalizing them, they are bringing more people in there and are forming cooperative. The same goes for agriculture. A lot of cooperatives are being formed in agriculture, and loans are being given through those cooperatives. Fertilizer being given through those cooperatives. Small grants and equipments are also given gratis through those cooperatives. And it has produced some result. I eat made in Nigeria rice. In fact, a lot of the food we eat now are made in Nigeria. And production has gone up. We have also tried to use Ministry of Works to say, open up roads in most of these places so that the food can be transported into the capital city, because transportation cost is one of the things we discovered that adds to the cost of food. Same goes for railway. The railway lines are also being arterialized, that is made into arteries to go into those areas. The narrow gauge that traverses from Port Harcourt through Enugu, Makurdi, just going up to Karanomoda is also being revived. It's been revived and is moving things. So agriculture and mining, we're facing them. More monies are being pumped into those places. On our own part, as Ministry of Labor and Employment, we are formalizing, we are helping to formalize farmers, miners, into formal people, into cooperatives. We're encouraging them into cooperatives. As a matter of fact, in the 2017 budget, we have a plan, if approved, for us to go into every local government in Nigeria and create what we call job centers. These job centers will identify and register people as per whatever trade they want to do, whether it's farming, whether it's mining, and identify one or two minerals that is in the area, working in collaboration with the Ministry of Mines and Ministry of Agriculture. We identify also crops that will go in the area, and then document these people, encourage them, give them lectures on what they're supposed to do in terms of assessing the grants and everything that is there for them. So government has taken a very wise step and is yielding very good result, because we have saved a lot of money from importation of rice. We have saved a lot of money from importation of potatoes from South Africa. We have saved a lot of money from importation of beans from Niger Republic. tomatoes and the rest of them from neighboring West African countries. These are things that have eaten up all our foreign exchange and put pressure on our economy. Yes.
All right, Minister, but we'll return to the issue of creating more jobs for
that's right. Yes.
Tackling unemployment. But let's move a little bit to maintaining or retaining the jobs that are on ground. And this is also fraught with numerous challenges.
Yes.
Let's take the Federal Civil Service, for instance. And the question of whether the Nigerian worker today, particularly in the civil service, earns what can be termed a living wage. There's a joke that goes around, of course, Minister, you must have heard it, that the take-home pay can't take anybody home anymore.
Take-home pay cannot take anybody home.
So, and beyond that, asking for a living wage,
yes,
we find that even the current levels of wages, workers cannot get, the arrears of their promotion, There's a question of training and retraining. And as we go on, we'll talk about this issue of workers being owed salaries and where they're paid. They never come in, the salaries are never paid in good time. What's this situation like?
Yes, Cyril, I thank you again. Living wage, take-home pay, which you say cannot, how did you say it?
The take-home can't take you home. Can't even take you anywhere.
That's right. But again, the English people again said to you that half bread is better than none. Do you know the option that was left for government when we came on board? The option was for us to retrench, cut down on the workforce. It's bloated, over bloated. And we decided as a government that we will not do that. So the personnel cost was what we retained, with minimal increase, because you do increase for promotion and people salaries are adjusted every year. You have increment as you move from one level, one step to the other. It is increased. So the personnel cost of government has gone up. As a matter of fact, when we came here, there was ballooning of the current expenditure to a size that nobody can imagine. Imagine a place where we met a 2015 budget of 80% recurrent expenditure and 20% capital. I mean, does it make sense? So we decided that we will put the same money into the economy. We'll put the same money, but we have to increase the capital votes so that government can spend more on infrastructure. And when you increase the infrastructural development, like roads, building new roads, new waterworks, new agricultural stations and stuff like that, it is the same government money that is going in there. And that money goes into the pockets of people. So if you come to the issue of the wages, yes, I agree with you. It's not too much for one to just say that it's not enough. It's not enough. We know it's not enough. But all round, it's not enough. Even for the ministers of government like me.
But Minister, you see, this argument is as old as anyone can think.
It's not. It's real. It's not. Because the damage to many homes of retrenching their breadwinner will be more excruciating than the breadwinner coming back home with something and now say, instead of eating egg every day, let us now eat egg every other day. You understand where I'm going? You must cut down on certain delicacies and certain things that is part of your spending in every home. For example, when I was a kid, we don't eat rice every day. We eat rice 3 times in a week in my home. And many people were even jealous of us. We eat it Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday. That's the timetable in my house. You only eat it any other day when you are sick. They give it to you. Like me, I'm always sickly, and my mother, you give me rice. So you must have to cut down on something. That's the bottom line. We have to make sacrifices all over. And if you go into the area of, you mentioned promotion, yes, arrears, and even the salary.
Yes.
President Buhari doesn't want anybody to be owed salary. There is an injunction on the federal payoff through the Minister of Finance and Budget and Planning that workers' salaries must be paid between the 25th and the 28th of every given month.
Minister,
what happens is that
many workers will tell you that that was a pronouncement and the result was only seen for just about 1 month only, and most of the time it's like the normal thing is that the workers get their pay well into the first or sometimes second week of the new month.
No, what has happened is that at times you have hiccups in every system. Like on May Day, you saw what happened at the Eagle Square. Part of the reason was that workers did not receive their pay in April to celebrate their birthday, which is May Day. May Day is Workers' Day all over the Federation since 1889. When the Workers' Association in France declared freedom, that they no longer work 16 hours in a day, that is now 8 hours, and that some of them who were killed were not killed in vain. That's the emergence of the Labor Day. They weren't paid. We raised this in the Federal Executive Council. I raised it. And the Minister of Finance was even oblivious of that fact. And the Accountant General now reported to her that same day that their system had a crash or whatever. So there are system problems. So once in a while these things happen, but that won't happen at the wrong time. And let me tell you, the workers who are not receiving their salaries as I want to pay, they go back. There must be some difficulties because workers have been loaded on the IPs, the integrated system. Some of them some establishment doesn't want to go there. They don't want to because they want to be doing manual. And in doing manual, you perpetuate all sorts of corruption. Dead workers they're still taking their pay. They over invoicing the number of workers and things like that. Okay,
two issues about that, Minister. And it's that every administration that comes into office, and in fact, the civil service sometimes say, you know, they're the whipping boys. Every administration that comes into office laments that almost all of its resources is going towards paying of salaries. But most of these administrations still function anyway with political office holders, you know, being paid huge sums and perquisites and still carrying around a heavy burden, which of course is charged on the public purse as well. So the unions are saying it's not only the civil service, cut down on political office holders, the number of aides, and even the huge salaries and perquisites which they get. How do you respond to that?
Cyril, I was a worker. I was a civil servant. You didn't read it in my CV. I was a medical officer. I joined the service on level 9, step 5, after my NYSC. I did my NYSC in Lagos when you were joining NTA. I passed through the hog and then terminated in level 16. I left the service from Deputy Director Kada, and there is nothing you can tell me that is new. I have seen political office holders. I saw them in 1980 during Shagari. After the coup, I saw the next group of people who came to work with the military as ministers, permanent secretaries, and the rest of it. I also saw another civilian government, Kwasai is a hybrid government under Babangida when there was a parliament, but still with an armed forces ruling council.
Right.
Then we moved from there to General Abacha and thereafter Obasanjo, 1999. So I have seen a lot of things. I can tell you that this regime, this government, is very worker-friendly, very labor-friendly. Very. I'm not saying that because I'm a labor minister. You can ask the labor leaders whenever they come here. I'm one of them. In fact, the executive don't know whether I'm working for the workers or I'm working for government, but I can tell you authoritatively that I'm striking a balance in whatever I'm doing. The workers should not feel maltreated because I know what is involved. I know the pain the government is going through, both in federal government and in the state level. We told governors not to retrench at the Economic Council. That's why they have not retrenched in states. They say they will retrench if we will not assist them. We give them bailout funds.
Right.
Bailout Fund 1, Bailout Fund 2, then Paris Club Fund. Which government has ever done that in Nigeria?
Minister, but
so this is it.
Despite all that, you still find that the states collected the bailout 1, 2, as you said, the Paris Club Fund. We still find that states are still owing as much. I mean, eight months in some cases.
The workers' unions there
sometimes
should go and engage them engage them seriously. Ask state governments to cut down. All these things I'm telling you we do in federal, a lot of state governments are not doing them. There are plenty of special advisors from outside the system, special assistants, political assistants, and so many nomenclature jobs that have been created politically. I'm not saying that it's wrong, but you cut your coat according to your cloth. You can't rob Peter to pay Paul. The workers of Nigeria deserve to be paid their wages because a workman is due his wages. They must pay.
All right, Minister. Then there is this vexed issue of a minimum wage.
Yeah. And
discussions were supposed to have been held before now.
Yes.
As to determine a minimum. Labour, of course, has proposed 56,000 naira.
That's right.
What's your response?
Labour has a right to propose 56,000. It's within their rights. The present minimum wage is 18,000 naira. They say it's not enough. Everybody in Nigeria knows that 18,000 will not be enough for a worker. We know that. But is 56,000 the alternative? NECA, which is the Employers Consultative Assembly, has said we cannot pay that amount. Manufacturer Association says we cannot pay that amount. NASIMA, these are employers of labor. Because if you don't have an employer, you will not have an employee. An employer of labor, an industrialist, a corporate organization owner must be there to employ people before you have a... So the minimum wage issue is something that is on front burner now. And by ILO convention, we are supposed to discuss it in a social dialogue. And that's why we're putting up the minimum wage committee. You remember that after the increase in pump price of petrol, that was when Labour gave us this 56. We then went and said, okay, let us do a framework for this minimum wage committee. What numbers of persons will be there? What number will government bring? What number will state government bring? Because you cannot go and say, because the issue of labor and national minimum wage is on the exclusive legislative list, you go and legislate on it without carrying those who will pay along with you. So again, NECA is there, NASIMA is there, MAN is there, small and medium scale industry owners, they are there. So we are capturing everybody into this net for us to come and sit down and look at it. It is in this conference table that laborers, that's organized labor, their 56,000 demand per month will be tabled. And then MAN, NECA, NASIMA, federal and state governments will give a counter proposal and it will be discussed. Because one of the things you must know is that we should work according to laws and conventions. Nigeria is a signatory to the ILO convention, which I think it's Convention 103 or so, that talks about collective bargaining. And in collective bargaining, the tripartite partners must be involved. Who are the tripartite? Government on one side, Federation of Labor Unions on one side, and then the Employers Association. The various ones I've so mentioned, they'll be on the other side, and the discussion will take place. And again, in social dialogue, especially on the issue of wages, the ILO says no partner should intimidate the other. And everybody should take into account the sustainability of any wage you have agreed on and the means to pay.
Well, Minister, I like the part you talked about, that no one's group should intimidate the others. But it's a general belief that employers, particularly government, always intimidate the employee.
I don't know about this federal government. We have never asked the labor leaders whenever they come across you. But all I want to assure you is that we are working stringently to put in place this National Minimum Wage Committee this month of May. As a matter of fact, I left my office now, putting dots, T's, and I's to a memo I'm taking to council, for council to approve the recommendations we made in the joint organized labor cum federal government committee. We have a joint committee, and that joint committee on Tuesday this week ratified the minimum wage committee and some palliatives which they think the federal government should be able to apply to cushion the effect of the increase in pump price of petroleum.
Now, there's also this little matter of disparity in pay among government organizations, particularly in departments and agencies, where certain categories of workers earn 2 times, 3 times the pay of others from the same government establishments. I mean, from government establishments as well. And all attempts towards harmonizing this have failed. What is the problem here? You go, for instance, you go to certain institutions, you find that they're earning huge pays, while other government organizations...
I'm sure you're not including the central bank, because the central bank and affiliates are out of being a public service. You know that public service, or what we call MDAs, ministries, departments of government and agencies, that what constitute the public service.
Let's use a very good example here.
Very good.
Like television workers, for instance, staff of NTA.
NTA. So you're coming back home. So what's happening at NTA?
You wouldn't compare the salaries at the central bank, NNPC. These are examples. Since you talked about giving certain examples, these are examples. You don't talk about salaries in NTA, central bank, NNPC, and such organizations.
Well, I'm not too sure, Cyril, that what you're calling salaries actually salaries as such, simplicity. These other organizations have a lot of allowances. Allowances associated with their jobs, hazards. They take some of them give hazard allowance because their workers go out to look at oil installations.
Media workers have also made representation about...
no, media workers, yes. I've read a memo from them. Is it Ratau? I think there's Ratau and one other.
Ngige, Ratau.
I saw something like that. They were asking for shift duty allowances. Shift duty be in charge of the no, not be in charge of the negotiation, participate in the negotiation. I think here we have a labor desk officer in information. So whenever it starts, our labor desk officer will join. But people should do what the law says. You negotiate it. And why I think they're having problems is that there is a clause that says that sustainability by the employer and the ability to pay should be the key underlying factors that will guide such negotiations. Out from the exclusive legislative list, you go by way of constitutional amendment. And to amend the Constitution, you know the tortuous journey you undertake. From National Assembly, who are the custodians of that particular clause, then even if it passes there, watering their powers on that issue, because when you remove it, we'll be one of the first countries in the world to do so. So you go to state assemblies and go and get 2/3 of 36, 24 states backing that you should remove. So this is a long, tortuous journey, which I don't think, because you will go to a public hearing, such an important matter, we'll go for public hearing, and they cannot scale through. I understand that what is happening is that somebody raised a bill as a private member's bill on that matter, and it passed first reading. When a bill comes for first reading, it's never attacked, because nobody is given right to talk. First reading is like listing for further discussion. So when it comes to second reading, the author, the proponent of the bill, the proponents will come with their reason and then put it up for debate.
All right.
And in the debate section, a vote will be taken, whether to proceed on with it to third reading. And usually,
next issue. Now, there are, some disagreements across board. And this has to do mainly with certain unions in the education sector, the health sector, and particularly in the oil workers sector. And this borders on collective bargaining agreements. We find that the agitation we're getting from those sectors are mainly as a result of the government going back on certain agreements that it had entered into.
Is it only government? Is government in the oil sector? Government is not in the oil sector.
No, I just use some of it. But you could see that in the, particularly in the health sector,
let me tell you,
medical workers, and in education.
Let me be honest with you. A lot of this, what do you call it now? This agreement over a previous agreement that has not been kept is as a result of what I told you. That when there's an intimidation, somebody can give in without an ability to fulfill that conditionality. To fulfill a CBA, because of circumstances beyond your control or new developments or whatever, you call for new negotiation. And this is what this government is doing.
All right, but
we are negotiating with ASU.
Yes.
We are negotiating with NMA. We are negotiating with Johesu and all the health allied workers and whatever. Right. Because I've told them, for as long as I'm labor minister, nobody will enter an agreement that he cannot keep.
Right, Minister, but why does it seem to happen all the time that when you have this leeway to renegotiate, the first thing, particularly government, is quick to begin to invoke no work, no pay?
No.
And the question has always been asked, what about no pay, no work?
No. We are guided by laws. We are guided by laws. The labor laws make provision for how you can leave your job, how you can work out on your job. You must notify your employer. Give him adequate notice. For essential workers, it's about 21 days. For some others, it's about 14 days. But you wake up and people leave their job and work out on it. Your employer have no means of now making contingency arrangement to cover up your job. If you're a medical doctor or a nurse, somebody will die. When you come back to resume your work, we can never go and bring back that dead person alive.
Well,
therefore, Section 43 of the law says that for any reason, a worker goes away from his job, the days you are away will not be paid for. Because even the Constitution in Section 17(3)(d) says it's equal work for equal pay.
All right, Minister, so if you
this is it. Right. And if an employer, you're talking only about the workers, there are certain employers too who go and lock up their gates and leave their workers outside without notification. Right. Without the law says for the period you lock that worker out without notice, you must pay.
All right.
Whenever he resumes.
So in the issue of payment, since we agree that a worker deserves his wages,
that's right,
where the employer fails to do that, and the employer now turns around after perhaps the worker has exhausted all legal means to get his due, then the employer now turns around to issue the all-known threat of no work, no pay.
No, you cannot. We are there. That's why we are there. The workers will drag the employers and come. There have been many cases they drag them and come from oil companies, especially from Port Harcourt. I don't want to mention their names because it will not be good for them. But I know I've conciliated a lot where the companies have locked out the workers. They have turned around to lock them out. And I say, for this period, you must add their payments, because they come to the gate every day and see it get locked. You must pay them for the period they were away and add it to whatever you were owing. And we tell them that you have to pay. If they don't pay, the law permits me as Minister of Labor and Employment to transmit such a case to the Industrial Arbitration Panel. I'll move it to the Industrial Arbitration Panel. The lawyer, what is it? The worker will not go to spend money doing payment to lawyers and looking for no. Industrial Arbitration Panel will give an award against such an establishment. And when that establishment does not pay that award, it's again transmitted to the National Industrial Court. And when it's transmitted, most times they ratify the awards given by Industrial Arbitration Panel. And once that is done, it's like a court have given you a judgment. If the establishment or the employer does not do that, we invoke certain sections of whatever make people to pay whatever is their debt. And you know, you can forfeit the account, you can get judgment and remove properties and stuff. So the law protects everybody.
Well, Minister, we've just got about 60 seconds to round off this program.
Good.
And the last thing I'll put to you is, can Nigerian workers look up to this administration and say, yes, they can expect that this government will stand for their interests?
This government will stand for their interests and do even more. We have been doing more. We have been thinking outside the box on how we can create more jobs for the Nigerian people, how to sustain the ones we have, how to create new ones, like I said, even if it's not white-collar job, blue-collar jobs. That is why we have our NDE and our Empower program, Empower Build will come on steam this time for people who are not graduates, but people who can come and learn skill, bricklaying, POP laying, tile laying, carpentry, welding, and teach them, take them on courses, give them certificates. We are doing much. We are labor-friendly, we are worker-friendly, we are employer-friendly. When the employers write me that they cannot access foreign exchange, I take it up with the CBN governor for the industry to be open. So we are doing for everybody, for the equanimity of our country, stability of the country.
Well, Dr. Chris Ngige, Minister of Labor and Employment, thank you for coming on One.
Thank you, serious. Thank you. Thank you. We thank Nigerians, too, for their support.
And that's our program today. We thank you for being with us. Next week, we'll be back with One on One. I am Cyril Stover. Bye for now.